Mint. It's that cool, refreshing plant that's pretty much everywhere, right? From your toothpaste to your favorite tea, we all think we know it. But today, we're going to peel back the leaves and dive into some surprising science hiding inside. So let's get into it. Yeah, because beyond just that fresh flavor, this herb packs some serious, science-backed benefits. We're talking about a hidden power here that goes way, way beyond just giving you fresh breath. Okay, so let me ask you this. When you think of mint, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most of us, I'm guessing it's something pretty common, something we see every day. You're probably thinking of, chewing gum, maybe a nice cup of herbal tea, or hey, a good mojito, right? It's that little green garnish on a dessert, or something to liven up a salad. Basically, in our minds, it's all about the flavor. But what if that's just scratching the surface? What if this everyday plant, this simple garnish, actually holds the key to some pretty big health benefits? I'm talking about things like soothing your gut and even boosting your brain. All right, let's dive into the first big one. And this is probably one of the most well-researched areas where mint really, truly shines. We're talking about how it can be a powerful friend to your digestive system. And look, the science here is pretty compelling. There are studies showing that compounds in mint can be incredibly effective at helping manage the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, which can be really tough to deal with. So what's the magic behind it? Well, it's a compound called L-menthol. This is the stuff that gives mint that signature cooling feeling. But what's even more important is that it has some really powerful muscle relaxing properties. Okay, so how does it work? It's actually pretty cool. When you take it, the L-menthol gets down into your digestive tract. And what it does is it specifically targets and blocks these things called calcium channels in the smooth muscles of your gut. By doing that, it stops those painful, spastic contractions that are just classic IBS. And that's what brings the relief from the pain. And listen, this isn't just some theory. The evidence is really solid. There was this big review back in 2019 that pulled together the data from 12 separate, high-quality studies just to see if this effect was legit and consistent. And the results? Yeah, they were pretty compelling. Get this, across all those studies, a total of 835 people who took peppermint oil saw a significant improvement in their abdominal pain, bloating, and gas, especially when you compare it to a placebo. That's a huge number, and it really speaks to how effective this can be. Okay, so your gut's best friend, got it. But the story doesn't stop there, not by a long shot. Let's shift gears to something maybe a little more surprising. What mint can do for your mind. Yep, you heard that right. Research is now pointing to the idea that mint, peppermint oil to be specific, can actually act as a cognitive enhancer. We're talking about giving your brain a real, measurable boost. So what's the mechanism here? Well, it gets a little sciencey, but it's cool. The compounds in mint are thought to block an enzyme, hang with me here, called acetylcholinesterase. Now, this enzyme's only job is to break down a really important chemical in your brain called acetylcholine. And that chemical is critical for things like attention and memory. So by blocking the enzyme that breaks it down, you end up with more of that good stuff for your brain to use. And again, we've got the research to back it up. A study in 2018 took 24 people, gave them a single dose of peppermint oil, and found that they actually performed better on cognitive tests. Not only that, but they said they felt less mentally tired, even after doing some really demanding stuff. Pretty neat, right? So this is all super interesting, but the big question is, how do you actually use this information? Let's get practical for a second and look at the actual dosages they used in these studies. Okay, so if you look at the research, it's pretty clear. For IBS, the studies that saw success were using around 182 milligrams of peppermint oil every day. But for the brain boost or for athletic performance, the doses were way smaller, just 50 to 100 microliters. The key thing to remember here is that these aren't just random numbers. They're specific, measured amounts used in actual clinical trials. But hang on. Before you run out and grab a bottle of peppermint oil, we absolutely have to talk about safety. Because, like with any potent supplement, you really need to understand the risks. So, are these supplements safe for just anyone to take? The short answer, no. While they're generally safe if you use them the right way, they are definitely not for everybody. Even if you're taking the right amount, some people can still run into side effects. We're talking about things like heartburn, maybe some nausea, or a dry mouth. If any of that happens, that's your cue to stop and talk to a pro.
And it's also super important to know who needs to be extra careful. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, that's a big one. Same goes for people with issues like gallstones or GERD. And on top of that, peppermint oil can actually mess with common medications. Things for blood pressure, blood thinners, even some chemo drugs. So talking to your doctor first, that's not a suggestion. It's non-negotiable.
And let me be crystal clear about this. More is not better here. Taking extremely high doses can actually be toxic. We're talking documented cases of serious kidney and liver damage. This is precisely why following those dosage guidelines is so important.
Okay, so after digging into all of that science, it really is time to kind of reframe how we look at this plant, right? It's time for a fresh perspective on mint.
So let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways? Well, first, mint is way more than just a flavor. We've seen it offers real, science-backed help for digestive issues like IBS. And kind of surprisingly, it can give your brain a little boost too. But the most important thing, you have to use it responsibly. You have to know the risks and potential interactions. And that kind of leaves us with one final question, something to chew on. If a simple plant like mint is hiding all this science in its leaves, what other powerful secrets are just waiting to be discovered in the other everyday plants we have sitting right in our kitchens?